In American engineering, there are few tales as gripping and tragic as that of William Mulholland, a self-taught engineer who shaped the destiny of Los Angeles through his vision and ambition. Today, we journey back in time to explore the life of this extraordinary person and the dramatic events that unfolded on the fateful night of March 12, 1928, when the St. Francis Dam gave way, unleashing a catastrophe that forever changed the course of history. William Mulholland was born in Belfast, Ireland, in 1855. His parents, Hugh and Ellen Mulholland, hailed from Dublin, and the family returned there a few years after William's birth. His younger brother, Hugh Jr., arrived in 1856. Tragedy struck in 1862, when William was just 7 years old, as his mother passed away. William received his education at O'Connell School in Dublin, where he was taught by the Christian Brothers. At the young age of 15, William Mulholland joined the British Merchant Navy, embarking on a 4-year journey as a seaman aboard the Glennifer. In 1874, he disembarked in New York and ventured west to Michigan, where he spent a summer working on a Great Lakes freighter and a winter in a lumber camp. However, a near-fatal logging accident forced him to change course. Mulholland finally arrived in Los Angeles in 1877. A city with a modest population of around 9,000 at the time. In 1880, Mulholland oversaw the installation of Los Angeles' first iron water pipeline, a significant milestone. By year's end, he assumed the role of superintendent. William Mulholland, along with Mayor Frederick Eaton, envisioned a Los Angeles that would grow exponentially. The city's primary constraint was its water supply, given its semi-arid climate and erratic rainfall patterns. Mulholland and Eaton shared their vision and worked tirelessly to make it a reality. Eaton, formerly the mayor of Los Angeles from 1898 through 1900, had collaborated with Mulholland in the private Los Angeles Water Company during the 1880s. This partnership led to the conversion of the water company into city control in 1902. Where Mulholland's expertise was instrumental. A huge turning point came when Mulholland directed the construction of the Los Angeles Aqueduct, a monumental engineering achievement. From 1907 to 1913, this 233-mile-long aqueduct transformed Los Angeles. The project involved 3,900 workers, the excavation of 164 tunnels, and brought water from the Sierra Nevada to the city. Los Angeles experienced a population explosion, doubling from 50,000 in 1890 to over 100,000 in 1900, and tripling to nearly 320,000 by 1910. This growth was made possible by the aqueduct, which provided the lifeblood needed for the city's expansion. Fast forward to the early 1920s, when the city of Los Angeles was in dire need of a more stable water supply to support its booming population. William Mulholland was tasked with making this dream a reality. The plan was to build the St. Francis Dam on the San Francisquito Creek. On May 4th, 1926, a colossal engineering marvel rose to dominate the rugged landscape of San Francisquito Canyon. Located approximately 47 miles northeast of downtown Los Angeles, the St. Francis Dam, a concrete giant, stood nearly 200 feet tall, stretched over 700 feet in length, and commanded an area of 600 acres. This monumental structure, built in a sparsely populated mountainous canyon, was surrounded by a community primarily composed of farmers and laborers who worked at nearby hydroelectric power plants, known as Powerhouse 1 and Powerhouse 2. The St. Francis Dam was more than just an engineering feat. It was the largest arc-supported dam in the world, capable of containing over 12 billion gallons of water. It held a staggering 2 years' worth of water for the burgeoning city of Los Angeles. Remarkably, this engineering marvel was constructed under budget, a testament to the efficiency of William Mulholland, the chief engineer behind the project. Less than 2 years later, the tranquil morning of March 12, 1928, took a sinister turn. William Mulholland, a revered figure in Los Angeles, received an urgent call regarding the St. Francis Dam Dam keeper Tony Harnischfeger had discovered a troubling muddy leak in the dam's concrete curvature. Mulholland and his deputy, H.A. Van Norman, rushed to the scene. Upon examination, they confidently pronounced the dam safe and returned to Los Angeles. But less than 12 hours later, catastrophe struck. 2.5 minutes before midnight, on March 12, 1928, the St. Francis Dam met its devastating end. The dam, which held 2 years' supply of water for Los Angeles, catastrophically failed without warning. Eyewitnesses were scarce, but those who passed by the dam shortly before the collapse noticed nothing amiss. Ace Hopewell, a motorcycle-riding carpenter at Powerhouse No. 1, recalled hearing a rumbling sound upstream, which he initially attributed to a common landslide in the area. In a matter of seconds, the dam crumbled into large and small fragments, as 12.4 billion gallons of water began surging down San Francisco Canyon. The 140-foot-high flood wave left little in its wake, reducing homes and structures to rubble. The flood wave raced downstream, destroying Powerhouse No. 2, and taking the lives of 64 of the 67 workmen and their families living nearby. It cut power to vast areas of Los Angeles and the San Fernando Valley. The wave continued its relentless path, inundating parts of Valencia and Newhall. At about 12:40 a.m., Southern California Edison's substation was destroyed, plunging the Santa Clara River Valley into darkness. As the flood reached the Santa Clarita River Valley, it demolished a temporary construction camp, leading to the tragic loss of 84 more workers. Desperate efforts to warn residents and mitigate the disaster ensued. The flood continued its destructive course, severely damaging towns like Fillmore, Bardesdale, and Santa Paula. Finally, it emptied into the Pacific Ocean, 54 miles downstream south of Ventura, around 5:30 in the morning, leaving behind a trail of devastation spanning over 54 miles. The flood had expanded to nearly 2 miles in width. In the aftermath, some victims' remains were discovered as far south as the Mexican border, while many others were never recovered. The exact number of casualties has remained uncertain for decades. Officially, the 1928 death toll was recorded at 385. However, additional victims continue to be found over the years. Bodies that had been swept out to sea were occasionally washed ashore. The most recent discovery was made in 1992, when the remains of another victim were found deep underground near Newhall. In addition to these numbers, many migrant farm workers who were in San Francisco Canyon during the disaster also met an unknown fate, making it impossible to determine the exact count as they were not in the system. Many people believe the true loss of life could easily have exceeded 600. Continuing our journey through the aftermath of the St. Francis Dam disaster, we arrive at Castaic Junction Bridge, a structure that witnessed the relentless power of nature on the fateful morning of March 13, 1928. This metal truss auto bridge once stretched gracefully over the Santa Clara River, an essential link on the highway between Saugus and Castaic. In the early 1920s, it stood proudly, captured here in a picture postcard that depicted a bygone era. But history was about to take a drastic turn. As the floodwaters surged from the St. Francis Dam collapse, this bridge, like so much else in its path, was swept away. Its concrete supports were left standing as a silent testament to the devastating forces of that night. Today, these remnants of the old bridge stand west of Interstate 5. In a twist of fate, these concrete supports now safeguard utility pipes, keeping them above the river's reach. However, none of the metal structures you see today have any connection to the original bridge. As time passed by, Highway 99 and eventually Interstate 5 took the place of this once iconic bridge. The landscape changed, but the memory of the St. Francis Dam disaster and the bridges it claimed remains etched in history. As the haunting story of the St. Francis Dam disaster unfolded, a coroner's inquest, spurred by public demand, commenced on March 21st, shedding light on the events leading up to the catastrophe. Witnesses testified, recounting their observations of leaks, drips, and cracks in the dam in the days prior. In a poignant moment during his testimony, Mulholland attempted to resign as chief engineer, but the board rejected his offer. After weeks of investigations, the inquest ultimately absolved Mulholland of any charges. A few weeks later, in April, the commission released its report, attributing the St. Francis Dam failure to defective foundations. While it did not accuse Mulholland of intentional wrongdoing, the report underscored the importance of sound engineering. Despite these findings, many continue to hold Mulholland responsible, citing negligence, his lack of formal engineering training, and arrogance in believing he could harness the formidable power of water. In 1995, geological engineer J. David Rogers suggested that the dam had been partially constructed on an ancient landslide site, a fact unknown given the technology available at the time. This revelation shed new light on the tragic events of that fateful day, highlighting the complex interplay of human error and natural forces that contributed to the St. Francis Dam disaster. As the echoes of the St. Francis Dam disaster reverberated across Los Angeles, a shadow of fear descended upon Hollywood, where a structure eerily similar in design stood tall, the Mulholland Dam, now known as the Hollywood Reservoir or Lake Hollywood. The prospect of history repeating itself haunted Hollywood residents who saw the Mulholland Dam as a looming threat, hanging above their beloved neighborhood. The Hollywood Chamber of Commerce expressed grave concerns, branding the project dangerous to life and property. The district attorney, city council, and board of water and power commissioned expert committees to assess the Mulholland Dam's safety. Their unanimous support for the dam did little to calm Hollywood's fears. Despite numerous positive surveys, persistent doubts remained. In 1930, an engineer's report revealed concerns about the dam's ability to withstand uplift pressure if the reservoir was filled to capacity. The water level was permanently lowered, but Hollywood's unease persisted. In August 1931, a report confirmed Hollywood's worst fears. The dam was deficiently constructed on geological faults. A resolution to remove the dam was proposed, with the condition that it did not endanger other parts of the city. Chief Engineer H.A. Van Norman proposed an earth-fill solution in 1933, which ultimately prevailed. Earth was piled against the dam, concealing its iconic stepped wall and providing some reassurance to the concerned residents. Thus, the Mulholland Dam, once viewed with dread, was transformed, becoming an enduring symbol of engineering caution and a lesson learned from the tragic St. Francis Dam disaster. Devoted but often absent, Mulholland had little time for his family during his relentless pursuit of engineering excellence. Now, for the first time, he found himself with free moments to cherish. Yet the weight of responsibility for the catastrophe bore heavily on him. 7 months later, he resigned from his career, vanishing from the public eye. In 1935, at the age of 79, Mulholland passed away, leaving a void in the world of engineering. Thousands paid their final respects as his body rested in the City Hall's rotunda, and he was quietly laid to rest at Forest Lawn Cemetery in Glendale, California. Mulholland's final years were marked by seclusion and the weight of the tragedy that he carried with him. During his final years, he began an autobiography that would never see completion. William Mulholland's life, once defined by engineering triumphs and challenges, had come to a poignant and somber close, forever linked to the St. Francis Dam disaster.